We're taking our solving equation skills a step further, and now we're going to look and see when there are variables on both sides of the equal sign. Our target for today is that I can solve equations with variables on both sides and identify equations with no solution. So the ultimate goal with any equation, remember, isolate the variable. You're going to get it on a side of the equal sign by itself. We're adding to our how-to here. Yesterday, we added that we're going to clean up the equation before undoing anything. That's where we look to see if we need to use the distributive property, if there's parentheses with a number next to it. Then see if we can combine any like terms. So you're looking on each side of the equal sign and trying to clean up each side. Once everything is cleaned up, now we're ready to start moving things around. We're ready to start really getting into it. And here is where we're adding in the step. Before we undo what's happening to the variable, we're going to reunite the variables, but we're also doing this using inverse operations. Then we do our undoing, undo what's happening to the variable, also with inverse operations. Addition and subtraction go together, multiplication and division go together. Let's look at what this really means in real life. So, you have an equation like this, 7y plus 2 equals 4y minus 10. Well, you have y's on each side, and you're like, okay, which one do I isolate? And all along, we've been teaching you this, but you didn't realize it, that you're trying to get y on one side of the equation by itself. You hadn't probably thought about it this way. I have to reunite those variables. That was our new step. Reunite the variables using inverse operations. But the question is, which y should I isolate? Which one do I need to get on a side by itself? The 7y or the 4y? Honestly, you can do it either way. But what I have found is to avoid negative coefficients, and I'm probably like you. I like to work smarter, not harder. Avoid negatives if I can. Move the variable term with the lesser coefficient. So when I compare their coefficients, I have 7 and I have 4. 4 is less. Now let's say that I didn't remember this part right here. I didn't remember this tip. To move that, I would subtract 7y right here and over here, and I would end up with 2 equals negative 3y minus 10, which is totally something you can do. You just have a negative to deal with. So don't let this part stress you out if you happen to forget it. It just makes things a little bit easier. So let's go with the easier way of moving the lesser coefficient. 4y is the lesser coefficient. So you subtract 4y on both sides because of the subtraction property of equality. Then we simplify it. 7y minus 4y is 3y, plus 2 comes down. 4y minus 4y cancels because that's 0, and then negative 10 comes down. If you'll notice, I put the 4y's with the y terms. I did not try to combine 2 and 4y. I did not try to combine negative 10 and 4y because they are not like terms. I cannot combine them. If you find yourself trying to put my 4y's on the same side of the equal sign, it may be helpful for you to, let me show you. It's called partitioning the expressor, or just draw you some lines. You can draw yourself some lines right here, and that may clear it up for you more of like having each side of the equal sign. And so when you're doing inverse operations, it's on one side over here, and then the other one is on the other side. So I've simplified it, okay? Now I have 3y plus 2 equals negative 10. Now I'm ready to start undoing what's happening to the variable. It's being multiplied by 3, and it is having 2 added to it. Let's make this bigger again. There we go. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides because I'm undoing adding 2. I've put it under the 2 and under the negative 10. So once I simplify that, nothing happened to 3y, so it comes down. 2 and negative 2 cross out because they're equal to 0. Negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12. And then last step, I'm going to undo multiplying by 3 by dividing both sides by 3. And then my answer is negative 4. If you'll remember, the steps for solving equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign was the same as multi-step equations and the equations that we've done in the past. The difference is we're adding in a step. Still, you're going to clean up first. So you look at each side of the equal sign. Look at the expression 2b plus 4. Can I clean that up? No. Let's go to the other side. Negative 18 minus 9b. No, there's nothing to clean up. And remember, by cleaning up, we mean combining like terms, or using distributive property to simplify parentheses. So since it's all cleaned up, I'm ready to look for my variables. I have 2b here and I have negative 9b on the right side. I want to reunite those two. To reunite those, I use inverse operations. So I have a choice. I can either subtract 2b on both sides, or I can add 9b to both sides. Both ways will get you there, but as you'll see, it is quicker if you move the one with the lesser coefficient. So 2 or negative 9. Negative 9 is less, so I'm going to choose to move it. So I'm going to add 9b to both sides. Notice I put it underneath 2b. That's because those are like terms. So 2b plus 9b is 11b. Then bring down the rest of the equation. Plus 4 equals negative 18. And negative 9b plus 9b cancels. Now it's a two-step equation. I can undo multiplying, dividing, addition, and subtraction. Do the addition and subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. 11b, nothing happened to it, so it comes down. 4 minus 4 is 0, so it cancels. Negative 18 minus 4 is negative 22. Then I'm going to undo multiplying by 11 by dividing by 11. And b equals negative 2. Now I'm going to show you a quick check for this. Ideally, you're going to be doing this in your head. If you put negative 2 in there, do your sides balance out. So in your head, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So I want to see, does it come up as 0 on the other side? So if I put negative 2 in here, negative 9 times negative 2 is positive 18. When I have a negative 18 and a positive 18, that also combines to be 0. So it checks out, it balances, it makes the equation true. So I know that negative 2 is the real solution. Okay. Now again, go through those steps. I want to clean up each side. Looking on the left side, 2r minus 5 minus r. I have 5 minus r in parentheses, so I need to use a distributive property to distribute that negative. That's like negative 1 times that quantity. So 2r comes down, nothing happened to it. Negative times 5 is negative 5. Negative times negative r is positive r. Then copy down the rest. 13 plus 2r is already cleaned up, so I'm good on that side. Now I need to identify my actually, no, I can't move them around yet because I have 2r and r. I still need to combine those, do more cleaning up. 2r and r combine to be 3r. Write down the rest of it. 3r minus 5 equals 13 plus 2r. Now I can reunite those variables. I'm going to choose to move 2r because it's the lesser coefficient. If I had chosen to move 3r, that's going to happen if you kind of think ahead of subtracting 3r over here, I would have negative r. And we like to avoid negatives as much as possible. It just makes things easier. So I'm going to subtract 2r on both sides. 3r minus 2r is 1r. Copy down the rest of it. r minus 5 equals 13. And 2r minus 2r is 0, so those cancel. r minus 5 equals 13, so now we add 5 to both sides. And r equals 18. Now let's go for this one. This one looks real crazy, but I am certain that we can do this. So let's go through, let's start with distributing this. Let's do that. And then we'll see about maybe if getting rid of the fractions like we did and something in the last lesson will be profitable for us. So 1/2 h is going to come down plus 1/3 times h would be 1/3 h minus 1/3 of 6 is 2. Or think of it as 6 divided by 3 equals 5/6h plus 2. Okay, on this left side, I need to combine 1/2 h and 1/3 h. Combining those coefficients means I'm adding those fractions. To add fractions, you need a common denominator. So I'm just going to kind of make a little, instead of rewriting all that, I'm just going to kind of come underneath here. 1/2 will be the same thing as 3/6, and 1/3 would be the same thing as 2/6. Now, if I combine those two, 3/6 and 2/6 is 5/6. So I have 5/6h minus 2 equals 5/6h plus 2. Now, you're looking at it and you're already thinking, man, that looks a little bit weird. Let me show you here. If I were to start to simplify this, let's say I tried to add 2 to both sides. I have 5/6h equals 5/6h, scoot that over, you can see a little better, plus 4. Okay, I still need to reunite my variables, right? I need to move one of them. So if I say I'm going to get the lesser coefficient and move it over, well, they're the same coefficient. Is there any way that if I have the same thing equaling the same thing plus another thing? There is no way that that's possible. There is no value that h can be, that can be true. Because if I were to subtract 5/6h on both sides, I have 0 equals 4. In no way whatsoever does 0 equal 4. So in this case, there is no solution.